Imagine getting paid just for sharing your thoughts on products and services you use every day. With Survey Junkie, it's that simple. Click on the link in the video description to discover how you can start earning today by taking surveys.
If you missed the BBC Scotland debate, perhaps on account of having a freshly painted wall that needed watching, Douglas Ross had you covered. He devoted his time slot at First Minister's questions to raking over Tuesday night's programme. This included restating questions from audience members and challenging John Swinney to answer them. You've perhaps spotted the flaw in this tactic. In repeating queries the First Minister had already fielded, Ross allowed him to recap his earlier responses. You've got to keep Swinney on his toes. Coasting plays into his self-invented image as a safe pair of hands. When he's on his toes is when he makes mistakes. Ross is working his notice as Tory leader and it shows. Fair enough if he's champing at the bit to get away from Holyrood, but he could at least try to feign interest for a few more weeks. Like when he produced figures showing that more than 100 people over the age of 100 had waited longer than 12 hours for treatment in accident and emergency. Cracking statistic. Would appall punters. The heroic wartime generation let down by the Nats. But when Swinney fingered delayed discharge, and undertook to work more closely with local government, it was a prime opportunity for Ross to confront the First Minister for his years spent cutting council funding to the bone. The primary reason for delayed discharge is that no care package is in place and care packages aren't in place because Swinney and his colleagues have starved town halls of cash for 17 years. The Tory leader could have hung this particular millstone around Swinney's neck. He should have. He didn't. While Ross was barely trying, honest Sarwar was trying too hard. The Labour boss stuck to his favourite topic, the NHS, though not out of habit so much as frustration with the SNP's health claims. In a possible indication of how poorly things are going on the doorsteps, the Nats have broken the emergency glass and pulled the lever marked NHS privatisation. They tried this one in the dying days of the 2014 referendum too, and for the same reason. It scares and angers traditional Labour voters. Bidding to reassure these electors that his party could be trusted with the health service, Sarwar began. Before I was elected, I worked in our NHS as a dentist. This campaign we've heard almost as much about Sarwar's brief career battling plaque as we have about Sir Keir Starmer's toolmaker dad. He was a dentist for less time than it takes for a new filling to set, but he obviously feels this background gives him credibility with the voters. There had been, he said, an 86% rise in people paying for their dental work. Swinney cavilled that Scotland had more dentists per head than in England or Wales. 0 out of 10 dentists recommend that as a response to a crisis in oral healthcare. The First Minister promised root and branch reform. As long as that route isn't accompanied by a canal, it sounds good to me. Sarwar quoted passages from Labour's new manifesto as proof that his party would protect the NHS and disavow austerity. He clutched his papers as though he'd just come down Sinai with them. I'm not sure voters regard such things with quite the same authority. There's a reason the simile, as reliable as an election manifesto, has never caught on. From here Sarwar took the scenic route to his question, past the cost of hip and knee replacements and slowing down to note how many people with cancer were forced to go private. By now his interminable interrogative was attracting jeers from the SNP benches. Heckling cancer patients, he screeched. The presiding officer told him to get it over with. If only they would do the same with this election.